Evening, everybody. Glad to be here. What I want to do today is talk about pooling your family money. Just an introduction, real quick, to myself. My name is Eric, and I manage and run smartmoneybro.com. And one of the things that I do over there at Smart Money Bro is I write a blog to help people to think a little bit differently about money and think in a way to grow money and to manage money a little bit better than we do. So I'm guilty. I made a lot of mistakes with money in the past, and I've done a lot of things with money that I wish I didn't do. But I also made some really good decisions with money. Right around 20 years ago or so, I had a negative net worth. I was living in an apartment, never owned a home, and I made a few decisions about back then, and it's really turned my life around in terms of financially. So what I try to do is share that information with people, be it YouTube, which I just started, be it at the blog on Smart Money Bro, or even here in the Facebook group, Smart Money Bro group, to just kind of help people a little bit, because sometimes people kind of just need a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of inspiration, and they need to see somebody, a real person that has actually made some strides, some good strides with money. Not somebody on TV or some guru guy or female that's telling you something that's, crazy or out of your reach. I'm here to tell you that it's within your reach. And it's really all about making a few decisions. So what I want to do today is I want to come on here live because I want to come live on or more often in Smart Money Bro group. So I may put this on Facebook, on YouTube as well. And if I do, that's fine. But this is really for the group Smart Money Bro. And if you want to join the group, you can do that. It's on Facebook. It's just called Smart Money Bro Group. It's a private group. You can always subscribe and hit the like button on this video if it is on YouTube. And because we're trying to grow that YouTube channel as well, try to get more of the word out. Just regular, practical, ordinary people who want to grow money without throwing all their money in Bitcoin. Not that anything's wrong with Bitcoin, just to say that, there's a lot of ways you can just make a few decisions here and there to really grow your money. And a lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people really realize that from who I talk to. I do get a lot of people that contact me about certain things or certain questions, and I do my best to always help them out as well. So one of the questions I always get quite a bit is when I tell people about how my family was able to pool our money together. Pool being P-O-O-L, right? Not pool, but pool. So we were able to put our money together, and we really started about 6 years ago. We came up with an idea, and my mother had, talked about, pooling our money along, for many, many years when we were growing up, but we never really took action on it. But you see this a lot in other communities that may immigrate to America, and they may all live in a big house for 5 years while everybody saves their money and the house is gaining equity, etc. So there's other communities that do these things, and you may even do it in your own family. You may have a family group where you guys do these things, and that's cool. But in my family, I'm from the deep part of the inner city. Before that, it was the country. And so we never really had some of these concepts of putting our money together and really growing it to do stuff with. So about 6 years ago, I think somebody had brought it up in our family, and then, a couple of others said, yeah, sounds like a good idea. And so we began putting our money together, but we took several steps before we got there. And I want to talk to you real quickly about some of those steps that we did. So maybe this might be something you can do in your family, or it might be something that you figure out, what, let's give it a try. And I've known a few people that have actually given it a try since I talked to them about it. And so I wanted to kind of share this with more than just those few people and say that it's doable, it's possible, and it's something that you can do in your family. So why did we do it? Well, that obviously might be something you're asking. Well, what make you want to do that? Well, several reasons. The first thing is, several of us in our family believe in group economics. We believe that it's important to be able to put your money together. Your money is going to do more for you if you're able to bring it in with other people's money, right? I'm not talking necessarily susus and all that. I'm talking just putting your money in a big old pile and saying, okay, are we going to grow this money? We're going to invest this money? What are we going to do? That's more powerful, right? Group economics is more powerful than individual economics if the group economics is done right. So there's power behind putting your money together as opposed to keeping all your money separate. Of course, I'm not saying put all your money in this pool of money. I'm saying put the money you can afford in the pool of money, and it becomes powerful as a group. And that's something that we, especially in our community, we really haven't really got into that as much as we probably should in order to grow wealth and grow money. So number one is group economics. Number two is we wanted to build maybe a capital. It helps us build a base of capital. And, capital can be land, it can be machinery, it can be labor, but it can also be money. So you have this capital base of money that you can do things with. It's a base. It's foundational, right? And so that was really important because we wanted to say, hey, if we want to do something as a group or as a family, we can do it. We don't have to ask this person, can you contribute this? And this person, we got this capital base that's sitting there for us to utilize. So that's number two. Number three, third reason we decided to do it because of family emergencies, right? Something comes up in the family and you got to have some cash. Guess what? You got it right over here because you guys been putting into it for years and years and years. And if you need it for something important or immediately, you've got it. And then you can set this up however you want to set it up. You can set it up where it's more like a bank. You can set it up where you can say, we want to be able to borrow off that money at a certain interest with certain terms to pay back. Totally up to you. This is the beauty of when you pool your money together. The beauty is you get to decide how you want to structure it. You get to decide what you think you want to do with it, what you don't want to do with it, the rules and regulations. That's another reason we decided to do it. Not only was it group economics, not only did it build a good capital base, not only could it manage family emergencies, but it could also give us some control over the money. It could give us some way of saying, hey, this is ours and this is what we do and this is how we're going to do it. And we're able to make decisions with our money as a group. So the other thing was that it gives us time to spend time with our family. Perhaps you don't see your family on a regular basis or you live a long way from your family. You could have these meetings over Zoom. You can have them over, Google Meets, whatever. And so you can always get together and see your family, even though you're not near your family. You can get together as much as possible. You can do it once a month. You can do it once a week. You can do it twice a month. You can do it once every other month. Totally your decision. So that's the other thing. Couple more things. First, the other two things is this. It helps with unity. Helps come together. Come together as one accord, one mission, one goal, etc. But the other thing is that it can help educate certain family members about certain economic or money things. So perhaps you one month you bring in an insurance person. The next month you bring in somebody or somebody talks about or brings up or has the conversation about burial insurance or has a conversation about, etc. It could be anything. It could be, brokerage accounts or whatever. But you trust me, everybody has family members that aren't real savvy with money, right? If these family members get involved with pooling your money, now you're educating them, you're teaching them, they're learning something new and different, or at least they're looking at things a little bit different than they had looked at things. That's a big one. And then the final thing was that you hold each other accountable. When you pool your money together and you say, look, once a month, we're going to put $200 in this pool, everybody, all 10 of us. Now you got $2,000 a month, you got $24,000 a year. But every single month, having that $200, I'm holding you accountable, you're holding me accountable. And it's almost like having an accountability partner in a certain way. So these are the reasons why we decided to pool our money together. These are some of the good. Are there some cons involved? Absolutely. When you take money and family and you put it in one room, yes, there can be some problems and some issues. that is something that you're going to have to be able to work out and work through. If you do some of the things that I tell you about in just a moment, I'm going to tell you how we did this. So I talked about why. I'm going to tell you how. But when you do some of the things that describe the how we did it, you'll understand how you can kind of mitigate some of these risks and things that are going to come up, or some of these problems and cons that may come up, because you got to be careful, as we know, with money and family. So let's jump into, I kind of went over that why kind of fast. So, if you have any questions or something, feel free to put it in the comment section below. If you've actually done this with your family, put it in the comment section below. I want to know how it went. How did it go? Are things going smooth? Did you have to stop it after 3 years? Did somebody get into a big argument? Were you able to save up money to do something big? Were you able to invest the money, perhaps in some type of brokerage firm or something, or into a business, or into a multi-family apartment complex, or rental houses, whatever, commercial building that your family wanted to buy? Tell me your successes. Tell me your failures, or things that might have went bad. I'm curious. So with that, let me kind of explain how we decided, kind of the steps we took to actually do this, and the steps you can take to actually bring your money together. So number one, the first thing we had to do was we had to figure out the why. We didn't all figure this out at once, but we had to think about this. Why do we want to do this? What's the point? Do we really want to do it? Do we not want to do it, etc.? So the second thing, that's number one. The second thing is we had to figure out who was going to be interested in being involved and who was not going to be interested in being involved. So I say that to say you need to ask people in your family, is this something you want to be involved in? Is this something you think you might want to do? And when I say in your family, trust me, it doesn't have to be immediate family, right? In my situation, it was me and my siblings and my mother. But in your situation, it may be a really close cousin or 2 or 3 or 4, and a sister, and maybe one other person. But just ask people and give them the option of getting involved. I think that's always a good way to do it. But you need to figure out, number 2 is figure out who is interested by asking around. The third thing that we did was not just ask who was interested, because everybody could be interested, right? But you got to figure out who is willing to do it, right? Because you're going to have some family members say, oh, that sounds like a great idea. But then when it comes time to meet and get their money together and be a part, they're nowhere to be found. So figuring out who is willing and figuring out who is interested, that's 2 separate things, okay? Because just because you're interested, don't mean you're going to actually do something, right? I know a lot of people, we all have them in our family who do a lot of talking, right? That's what they do. They talk, oh yeah, I'm doing this and I want to do this. But when it come down time to actually make something happen and do something, they're not answering their cell phone. So let's be honest about that. So who is willing? Everyone is able, but only a few are actually willing. Now I'm going to say able. A lot of that depends on what you guys decide to do, right? And this is something that we'll talk about in a minute. But perhaps you want to just put $20 a month in a pool. That's cool. Most people can afford that. But if you decide, you know what, we want to really grow this thing real fast. So guess what? We're going to put $200 a month. These 10 family members are going to put $200 a month. 200 is a stretch for some people. Not for, it's a stretch for some people. Now, a lot of people find a way to get those things they want, but when it comes time to pull some money together, 200 can be a stretch for people. And I get that. I totally understand it. So a lot of people are going to be able, but the able part depends on what you guys ultimately decide in terms of how much you're going to put together. So once you figure out, get your why, what you're going to do, or why you're going to do it, and then you figure out who is going to be interested, and then you figure out who is willing to actually participate on a regular, consistent basis. Once you figure all that out, then you have to go ahead and call a meeting, right? So now we're going forward with this. Call a meeting Invite those people that said they're willing to actually do this. The meeting could be in person. The meeting could be over the internet, by Zoom, whatever. Conference call, don't matter. Call the people. Let's have a meeting. Here's when and where and how we're going to have this meeting. Let's get together and talk about these issues. When you have that meeting, you need to have an agenda. And you need to have an agenda that goes straight down the line. I know you're talking to family, but you got to understand that when you're dealing with money with family, it needs to be some business involved, and you got to think business. Otherwise, that's when things get hairy, and that's when things can get out of hand, out of line, etc. You got to kind of set some rules up front. So if you feel like you have people in your family that can't do that, then the chances are you don't need to invite them into this group to do this investing or do this pooling of money, because there's going to be issues down the road. Again, when you put money with family, there's going to be issues. So think about that. That's pretty important. So when you call your first meeting, there's a few things that you need to go over. I'm giving you all this because this is how we did it. And this is definitely how you can actually do this as well. So you want to have an agenda. You want to, in that meeting, you want to develop your family's strategy. You want to develop your family's mission. You want to develop your family's goals, and you want to develop the family's purpose. So, mission and purpose. You want to have those things so you know why you're doing this. And then you don't want to, you want to, and one thing we've slipped on, which we'll do here shortly, but you want to go over these things on a regular basis as you go through, as the months and months and months go by. You want to revisit these things so you make sure it stays fresh in everybody's mind. The mission and the purpose. I said it right. The mission, the purpose, and the goals that you guys develop. You want to have those things reminded to everybody kind of on a regular basis. As you know, once a year, could be once every 2 years, could be once every 6 months, could be as needed. But you want to try to be, here's my point with some of the things I've told you so far, is you want to be organized. And if nobody in your family has ever been organized doing anything, maybe this is the time that you could step in, because you're watching this and listening to this. Perhaps you can step in and be that person that says, look, I want to organize us around this idea of taking our money and putting it together for these reasons. In that meeting, as I said, you develop your goals, you have your mission, your purpose. You also want to come up with the rules for your meetings, because with family, as you know, right? We get together with family sometimes, but then, it's never around business, right? It's around some type of cookout, or it's around something involving some type of celebration. But you want to be able to gather your family for business. And so you got to figure out what are some of the rules of engagement that we're going to have. It's not as simple as saying we're going to have a meeting. You got to figure out, okay, our cell phone, what do we do about cell phones? Are they going to be allowed at the meetings? You have to try to get your family to respect the family meeting just like they respect the meeting at their job. And I know you might be saying to yourself, well, that's taking it a little bit too far, right? Not really, because you got to realize you're dealing with money. And when you deal with money, you have to have a certain amount of order. And if you don't have that order, things can go haywire very easy, especially around people that you know, that you love, that you've been around for all your life. So structure is good. So you want to be as organized as possible. What are the rules for the meeting? Are you going to use Robert's rules where, everybody says yay and nay and all that? Or are you going to be something, informal? Are you going to, and that's okay to be informal, and the rules are really up to you and your family. The only thing that you have to make sure you do with the rules is you have to make sure you abide by the rules and respect the rules that are put in place. So if you guys decide we're going to have a meeting standing up outside on the patio twice a month, then guess what? That's cool. Everybody stands up on the patio twice a month and respects that rule until that rule gets changed. But that's important to note because, again, with family, it can be things can go haywire and get gray, and feelings from 25 years ago when y'all was 10 years old and so took your bike, and that stuff will come up if you're not careful in a family meeting. It's okay, but one thing we do is I want to impress upon you is we try to make the meeting time, and then the talk time and all that outside of the meeting time. So you meet, everything, you have your meeting, you abide by the rules, etc. But then after the meeting, talk, eat, laugh, joke, boom, boom, watch the football game, whatever you got to do. But when it's time to meet, be as focused as possible, because again, you're talking about money and family. The other thing you want to do at that meeting, besides setting your mission, your goals, your rules, but you also want to determine some roles. Who is going to do what? Who is going to be responsible? Who is going to be the chair? How long will the chair be there if you're using a chair? Who's going to be the secretary and write down the meetings, or whatever you want to decide? Who's going to be the treasurer that collects the money and takes the money and does this with the money? You want to decide those roles. You also want to decide not most, but very importantly, how much money are you talking here? Are we talking $15 per person? Or are you talking $35 per person? Are you talking $150? Are you talking $350 per person? Any amount is good. Just agree to it. Totally up to you guys. That's really important. Keep in mind, obvious though, if you're doing $15 a month, or $15 a month, you're not going to grow very big unless you got a group of 20 or 30 people. But if you're doing $100 a month, you're going to have a lot of money to play with if you have 10 people in your group. So just keep that in mind as well. That's pretty important. You also got to determine how often you're going to meet, where you're going to meet, when and so forth. Those meeting times and locations all have to be squared away and worked out. You also want to talk about voting. How do you vote on an issue or situation, or if something should happen? How do you vote? If you have a couple, does the couple vote as a couple and they get one vote? Or does the couple vote as individuals and they get 2 votes? And that also goes back to the money. Does a couple put in the same amount of money as a single person? Or does a single person have to put in $50 a month while the couple puts in $50? Or should each person from the couple put in $50? This stuff sounds kind of elementary, but when you're talking about putting your money together as a family and pooling your money together, these things will come up. And you need to be prepared for them to figure out how you want to address them, what do you think about them, etc. Another question that you need to figure out is, where are you investing the money, or where are you putting the money? Are you putting it in a bank? Are you putting it into a brokerage firm? Are you putting it into a separate slush fund and for emergencies? How are you divvying up the money? Where is it going, etc.? That's something you got to figure out as well. For us, we keep our money at a single location, but that money could be used for something totally different, or that money could go somewhere else. It could be in several different places, which we could do, and we have done. So that's an important thing to figure out, where you're going to be investing the money. And obviously, the final thing you got to do at that meeting is you got to schedule the next meeting and figure out when it is. Now, that's meeting number 1. Every meeting is not going to be that involved, right? Because after the second meeting, somebody's going to come back and have because what we did was we had bylaws. And so I actually wrote out the bylaws with the mission, the purpose, and who does what, et cetera, et cetera. It's like 2 pages long, not a big deal, right? So I wrote out some bylaws and we followed those bylaws. But somebody's got to be responsible for something. Try to have everybody responsible for something as they take away from the meeting. I think that's pretty important as well. Everybody feels accountable, etc. Schedule the second meeting. So, do you want to introduce the idea of starting a family pool of money to your family? I don't know. It's totally up to you. Perhaps you say, what, this is not a good idea for my family, but it may be a great idea for a few friends of mine. Okay, that's fine too. The only reason I like to do it with family is because there's a certain amount of trust and tie there that you may or may not have with extended family, or may or may not have with friends. So I like the idea of family doing it, and that's kind of how we decided to put it together and do it. So I gave you my how. I gave you my why. I gave you my how. And I can give you a lot more details about that. Feel free to leave some comments below. Join the Facebook group if you're not on there. SmartMoneyBro.com. It just changed over to a private group. I'm willing to, I'm more than happy to answer questions about this topic or any topic. albeit, investing, real estate, because I've been managing and having real estate for 20 plus years, albeit side jobs, budgeting, money management, you name it. Again, I went from nothing to a whole lot of something in about 20 years, and I'm here to help folks and explain kind of how I did that, and maybe help you do it as well. If it's budgeting, if it's whatever it may be, the whole gamut. So, with that said, I'm gonna jump off, and the best person to take care of the old you is always going to be the young you. That young you that has the energy, the time, it's got the the oomph and the oomph. That right there is going to be the best person that's going to take care of you when you get unable to take care of yourself. So start now taking care of the old you. All right. So until next time, I'm out of here. Take care of yourself and take care of others. Peace.